Welcome to Expert Profiles Atlanta, where Atlanta's influencers and innovators share strategies for overcoming obstacles and achieving success in business and life. Here's your host, best-selling author and Atlanta influencer, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Geri Sims. Geri is a leading designer in the wedding and event planning business. Her creative work will transform your room into a thing of real beauty, spectacular from top to bottom. Geri Sims has gotten the attention of the industry for her well-rounded branding efforts. Most notably, she is called on to make a ho-hum event absolutely sparkle. With the use of over 100,000 yards of fabrics and props, she will make your party the most memorable. The quality of her work and the intricate rigging involved will leave you with the question, how did she do that? And I've seen some of the pictures on your website, Geri, and I asked myself that very same question. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I am great, thanks.
Good.
But I want to hear all about you and your business. So tell me quickly the name of your business and how you got started in wedding planning.
My name is Geri Sims, and my website is Atlanta Wedding Decor.
Okay.
And I specialize in drape, which sounds a little odd, but I specialize in fabrics, meaning draping the room, creating ceiling designs, and actually taking the room and creating a wow look in the room. There's many times when brides will actually rent a space that's not really what they want, such as a warehouse, the church community center. There's a lot of small towns that have just areas that are just not desirable. And I come in and I soften the room using fabric and a lot of ceiling design, which is what I'm actually known for.
Well, you know, your pictures are quite remarkable, the before and after. It's absolutely amazing what you can do with a room. Where did you learn to do all this stuff?
I actually graduated from the Ringling School of Art and Design, where at Ringling we had to study every media. So I had to learn how to design in a lot of different ways. But most of it is just a gift I have. It's a three-dimensional, almost a four-dimensional design I have to create. So there's actually some engineering, some practicalities, and most of it is just experience. Because if you don't have the experience of doing something like this, it can be very overwhelming.
And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this at least 25 to 30 years. I've been in this industry. The drape and design, probably more like 15 years on a regular basis. I actually created a niche in the industry. I saw the need for it. I saw the brides were looking at it. They saw it in the magazines, and they just couldn't find anybody that could do it, willing to do it. And remember, this is a big scale. It's not just a small centerpiece on a table. It's the entire room, whether it's a convention center with 30 feet tall room heights, or whether it's a small, intimate space. I can actually create anything out of nothing.
Wow, and you are definitely good at that. Now, tell me, do you do everything when it comes to wedding planning, or is this just your specialty within that niche?
I actually have done everything in the past, but because I have a gift for this, and there's not a lot of people that do it, I tend to stay in my area of expertise. And I have found that this is something that a lot of people look for. I can do all of it, and I have done all of it. I just think if you do something well, you should stay at it.
I completely agree. That is definitely the best way to go. So you do weddings, which is what most people think of, but what other kind of events do you do?
I actually have done a lot of corporate parties. Even I work a lot with the rappers here in Atlanta, Jeezy, Lil Wayne, and See, Jeezy, Lil Wayne, and T.I. They've done several parties together. They've celebrated several birthdays together. I've worked with Kim with Housewives of Atlanta. I did her birthday party last year. And 2 years ago, I did Kim's Baraz's. I did her wedding. That was an amazing one because she brought me into probably one of the worst warehouses I've ever seen and asked me to transform it within about 10 days. We had to actually create for ceiling, walls, and floors. So we had to get things done in a very quick and fast way. And then not only that, we had to bring in heat and air so that we made sure that the room didn't have any air conditioning. It actually came on the day of the wedding.
Wow. So that is quite an undertaking. Now, tell me, why do people choose to have that done rather than look for an event place that is already set up for weddings?
Most of the time it's location. A lot of times it's because the venue is in an area of town that they prefer. They own it. I've actually done quite a few tents as well, and sometimes they just don't want the public around and they want the privacy. Mm-hmm. So there's so many different reasons, and there are times when it's budget, when they are at there's several ministers' children that get married and they have to invite the entire church, so they have to go to the gymnasiums. Right. I decorate a lot of the Indian temples as well, and those are very large weddings. They're usually range between 500 and around 1,500 and more. So they actually invite the community. So those events usually are 3 to 4 days, and they're quite grand. So we have to stay within budget and come up with different plans and ideas and different ways to make it look different.
Right, and the Indian culture is known for those extravagant weddings and the length of them as well. You said 3 to 4 days?
Oh, at least. They're the most beautiful weddings I think I've ever done. I don't ever get tired of doing the Indian weddings. I do a lot of the other ethnic weddings as well, which actually brings a lot of flavor into the wedding. I learn something new every time. Most recently, a Moroccan wedding, and we've done Ethiopian weddings. We've done everything, even the Asian weddings. There's something different about all of them, but something beautiful about all of them.
So tell me how you go about arranging the room. I've seen some of the ceilings that you do and just having that drapery hanging. Is this stuff that you have on hand that you use, or is it stuff that you have to go out and get to match the theme of the wedding?
I would say 99% of the time, it's everything I have. I actually keep within the basics of, I have some chandeliers, so we use chandeliers throughout the room, crystal beads, a lot of fabric, and I have those. I just bring in rolls of fabric. We put it in place. When we're done, we actually take it and transform it into something else that we can use all the time, like backdrops. But most everything we have can be used and reused, but most of it's all from the top of my head. I actually create designs just from looking at the space and seeing how I can use it and what can be done, and then giving my clients an idea of, things that are maybe outside the box. There's one that's quite popular where we turn the ceilings a blue color. We put cafe lights, mini lights up in the ceiling, and then we do a drape underneath that. This way, when they turn the lights out in the room, it looks like the stars and under the sky, and it gives a sense that they're outside. And a lot of people like that.
Oh, I'm sure that would be wonderful. Now, talking about the actual venue, that obviously the church is going to be somewhere that you're going to spend some time, but people come back to the venue for the party as well, and you can have the weddings at that venue too. How much of the wedding budget is spent on that space?
Well, let's see. The first budget's usually the venue. The second one is food, and I'm normally the third in line. My budgets I can start around $1,000 if it's a simple room and something we can work with within a few hours. And my budgets can go up pretty high. I've actually worked on some really big weddings, but my average cost is around $2,500, and you can get a pretty good amount of nice pieces for me to do. Within that, usually it's ceiling design, backdrops, entranceways, a lot of unique things that people are asking for now, like staging and, a unique chandeliers where we combine chandeliers to make a large chandelier. So they're not just, they're seeing things on their Pinterest and magazines and other locations, and they're actually bringing it to us and showing it to us. We call it either the bride has two weddings. It's the Pinterest wedding and her real budget wedding. So
Right.
we try to kind of work with both of them, because once I understand her thought process, her look, her colors, I can usually always put it together and give her exactly what she's looking for within her budget. Most of the time, they don't like to give us their budget up front. They want to see what costs are. At that point is when we can actually come together and create exactly what she's looking for. And I'm usually always successful at that. There are some brides that can't afford me, but the ones that can't afford me, I actually try to at least give them ideas and of places they can go, what they can do, and how they can get it done.
Right. And how much is it, like you said, most brides have been dreaming of this day for many, many years, and they've been on Pinterest and seen everything. How much of it is that, as opposed to they've seen somebody else's wedding that you've done and they say, I want this?
Well, it's one and the same. Most of my work is very nice that I show. They don't see the average work I do because I tend to show only my good work. I have a daughter that's getting married next June, so I'm actually going to start creating things that nobody has ever seen, because it's given me incentive to go to the next level. I want to be able to create things that people haven't seen 10 or 20 years from now. I want to create those looks. So for a bride to say, I want this particular look, I can actually create almost anything they have in mind. And there's not many people that can do that. I would tell you that most of the time when they walk into the room, they will see more than what they even imagined. And when you see the looks of these girls when they walk in that room, there's not many girls that don't cry, because their vision came to life.
Mm-hmm. And talk to me about some of the fears and the worries that they have in setting this up and having it turn out the way that they want.
Ask me that again.
What kind of fears or worries do they have about, having something in their head and being able to actually get it out to turn out the way that they want it?
They have this fear all the way through. You probably don't know brides well enough, but brides tend to have a lot of nightmares about their cake falling over, not being able to make it to the wedding in time. They have a lot of fears that go on at all times. I think with me, once they see my work, they trust me 100%. Once they talk to me and know that I see their vision, they don't worry about it. But the fact that it is their wedding day and you only have one chance and one time to do it right, there's no retakes. That's a fearful thing in itself.
And what are some of the myths or misinformation that's out there? What do some people think that, okay, I've got my space, now do they expect it to be prepared for them by the venue? Or do they understand that it has to be decorated themselves?
I think the basics is most brides think of cake, food, um, their dress. There's about 10 items they think of to begin with. What they don't think about is the things that I do, the backdrops. Until they get the space, they don't realize what they need or if they need me. I create the beautiful backdrops where their pictures are taken, the entranceways, the ceiling design. This is the memories. I create the memories for wedding day, because when they start putting it all together, they start realizing there's so much that they didn't think about.
Right. And of course, like you said, you are really in every picture that they're taking. Your backdrop is going to be there. The event is really produced by you. All that fabric and everything is going to be in every single one of the pictures. So it's got to be really important that it looks great.
Correct. Between the ceremony, that's where most of the pictures are taken, the head table, or the sweetheart table as we call it, the entranceway where the bride and groom enter as husband and wife, their first dance with the design in the ceiling above them and the backdrop behind that, where their cake is cut. This is where all of the photos are taken. This is where the majority. And if you don't choose to put a backdrop, you could have an exit sign above your head. You could have a light switches beside you. You could have, things that you really didn't plan on, and it costs just as much to try to Photoshop those out as it would just to order a backdrop that would be beautiful, that everybody would enjoy, and you could have a lot of pictures taken with those.
Definitely, and they're there forever as well. So what stands out in your mind? You've been doing this for many, many years. Is there any one wedding that stands out in your mind as just being the one that surpasses them all?
I'm going to tell you there's actually 5. I did a family, and there were 5 children that got married. Of course, it was three siblings, but every year I did one of their children's wedding because the kids were so close in age. And every one of those were incredible. They were all done in tents, but the tents were the size of football fields. Mm-hmm. And then we had extensions of tents, meaning the bride's tent, the groom's tent, the dessert tent. And believe it or not, we brought in the porta potties, the trailers, the really nice ones.
Right.
And we actually built a tent over that, flooring. I draped it all, put chandeliers in that tent. And it was probably one of the most unique tents that still today people look at and can't believe that I could do something like that. But when you're talking about this particular wedding, you're bringing in 18-wheelers. You're bringing in just the largest pieces of equipment I've ever seen. And we're talking, and we actually, they brought in landscape, they brought in trees, they brought in a lot of extra props. They actually built a church, a wooden church around a tent to make it look like a chapel. And we covered the tent in burlap so that it would blend with the look of the church. They actually had swans coming across a lake with the babies and the adults, and they actually took a string of food, and they had somebody while the ceremony was going on that dragged the string across the water, and the swans followed it, so it looked like the swans came across exactly at the right time. Those are the details that we have. We also have put lights in trees so that the bride walks from the chapel to the reception tent, and every time she passed by, one of the trees would come on. And we're talking pecan trees. These trees were 30, 40 feet in the air, and when you see the lights come on these trees, it's breathtaking.
Wow, I mean, that's some vivid pictures right there. And, just listening to it, I can imagine what it was like actually being there and seeing all this. Talk about memories of a lifetime. Now, how about some advice for people who are looking for somebody to take over their event or to plan their wedding? What should they be looking for first?
The venue is the most important. We can't do anything until we see where you're going to be married and see where everything's going to take place. Once a bride does that, then we can come in, meet with her. Normally, I try to meet with them in their venue. I don't mind meeting with them outside of their venue, but I try to be standing in the room so that they can actually visualize what my ideas are. I give pricing right then and there so that they understand where the prices are and how they come about. At that point, we start either drawing sketches or I start showing them pictures. I have lots of pictures I could show a bride of ideas. Once they start seeing the pictures, they start seeing that I know exactly where their thoughts are. Because remember, girls actually start planning their wedding as they're young girls. They visualize their wedding. They have thoughts of what they want it to look like. So just because they were engaged doesn't mean that they're just starting the process. We have girls that come to wedding shows all the time that aren't married. They're just looking for their future props and ideas. And a lot of times they'll take those ideas to their to their birthday parties and their events that they're having at other places. But I would say they need to really think about budgets. It's kind of hard to determine what your budget is when you've never had a wedding before. So I think if you can work with your planners, most brides don't understand pricing. So to actually sit down with them and visualize what they are thinking, give them real numbers, and then eventually you come back around to a budget.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as, you say these girls are on Pinterest all the time, do you have a Pinterest page that people can go to see some of these things as well?
I do. All they have to do is Google my name, and I've got 4 Facebooks. I think I've got a Pinterest. I've got 2 Twitters, 2 Instagrams, LinkedIn, and everything is under my name, Geri Sims, GeriSims, or in the letter N, the number 2, and Decor, DECOR. So we stay pretty active right now. I'm getting ready to focus on photography so that we can actually bring in new pictures and new looks and try to see if we can keep all of our social media up to date and the website. Right now we're working on adding more to the website.
Well, social media is definitely important, but doing what you do, I imagine there's hundreds and thousands of pictures out there with your work in it.
There are. I just have a social media group that takes care of that part of it. We're actually down for a few weeks now trying to come up with some new ideas. I found some things I really like, and I think it's very productive, and I want them to try to focus on doing something different than what most of the people are doing out there.
So for people that are wanting to get in touch with you, Geri, to get your advice and see what it would be to have you do their wedding, how far in advance should they be asking these questions?
Brides plan their weddings usually within 6 months to a year. I'm not somebody they think about to begin with. I'm somebody that comes along a little bit later. Most of the time, wedding planners will bring my name up, but a lot of times you can call me within 2 weeks of your wedding. You can call me most of the time within average 2 to 3 months of your wedding. is what most of them are. Every year changes. The market changes all the time. But it is something that most girls don't, as I said, they don't realize I'm there, don't realize there is such a company that can do it. So they try to think outside the box, but the more they keep coming to fabric, people start giving them my name, start showing them my photos. Once you see my name and you see the work I've done, most people are more interested and they want to call, see what I can offer. And most of the time they go with me.
Excellent. Well, give us again the best way to get in contact with you. You've got the website, which is gerisims.com. Do you have a phone number or email?
I do. My personal email is Geri, Geri, at gerisims.com. My phone number is 404-558-1300.
Well, Geri, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. I've seen a lot of the pictures on your website and social media, and they really are remarkable. Anybody listening, go check that out. It's gerisims.com, and you will definitely be giving her a call. Thank you very much, Geri, for being my guest on Expert Profiles Atlanta today.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you for listening to Expert Profiles Atlanta with Neil Howe. To learn more about the resources in the show or to listen to past episodes, visit expertprofilesatlanta.com.